Welcome to the Hidden Bookcase. Come through and get cozy. Pick a book, your favourite book, that's the one that opens this room. Inside you'll find a warm fire, a loving cat, and a wide skylight to the stars.
And a dangerously high to-be-read pile.
I'm Morgan, I use they-them pronouns, and I am the flowers in your hair betraying your secret crush to the world.
I'm Soren, I use he-him pronouns, and I am the guy with the broom who has to follow you around.
We've been friends for over a decade and are always swapping books.
Each fortnight, we take it in turns to recommend one another a favourite read. The first-time reader tells us what they know about the book, makes some predictions about what they don't, and then we discuss our thoughts with all of you bookworms. On our shelf this month is graphic novels.
So today, let's get to talking about
Finding Home by Harry Connor. So Morgan, Usually I ask you how you found this book, but I actually know, but will you tell our listeners?
Yeah, possibly 5 years ago, but that makes me sound old. So we'll say some number of years ago. I was at Comic-Con. I might have been with you, and we were walking around Artist Alley, and I found an artist who sounded really cool, looked really cool, and I bought the first volume of their comic and then forgot about it for 4 years. And then read it and was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then managed to get my hands on the rest of the installment in physical copy. And I finally read the whole thing. And it very quickly became one of my favourite things I've ever read.
And what's it about?
Finding Home is about, you'll never guess this, finding home.
What? What a twist.
I know. It's crazy. You'd never see it coming. No, it's about a half dryad and a human who become travelling companions to survive the road. And on the way, they maybe sort of fall in love. But first, they have to reconcile with the fact that they are very different people and they have so much trauma to unpack before they can do anything. Succinct summary.
That's a good summary.
If I started talking about it properly, I'd go off the deep end.
Well, we're about to go off the deep end, so it's okay. I just want to put out there, if anyone's listening to this and they haven't finished the comic, we're talking about the whole comic, and it won't be finished on Webtoon for the time this is up, so it won't be available for free in its entirety, but the volumes are all available on Harry Connor's website as PDF. So spoilers for the whole thing are going to be in this.
Yes.
So don't come and murder us if you're like, what? That's how it ends?
We have access to the forbidden secrets of the world.
The forbidden secrets, and you can too for $10. And please do, because you should support independent artists. Are we ready for the blind react?
I'm ready.
So Finding Home is a webcomic that got made into graphic novels, I think just independently by the author slash artist. Morgan got them from Comic-Con. I'm pretty sure while I was just like standing there, so I don't know what I was looking at, but maybe I was looking at a different stall or something. It follows a human and a half dryad who are travelling through the woods together. Maybe they are trying to find home. I don't know if they're trying to like return home or find a place to call home, or maybe it's both of those things and it's metaphorical. I'm expecting like cozy fantasy vibes, definitely some magic, with one of the characters being a half dryad, that's pretty obvious. They really remind me of John Martin, just in the way that people usually characterise those two characters from the Magnus archives in fan art, although I'm pretty sure this predates that, so that's just a fun little thing. But I think Morgan mentioned that they have kind of similar personalities to John Martin as well, so I'm expecting that kind of outwardly cynical, serious, and warmer dynamic. I've seen all of the covers when Morgan's shown them to me, so I feel like the half-dryad, maybe his human half is of a prince, mainly because the third volume is called The Prince, and he's in sort of princely get-up there, so maybe he's run away to connect with his dryad side, something like that. I'm expecting angst, I'm expecting flower language, weirdly. I just feel like that's going to come in for some reason. I think of like a wild prediction here. Nope, can't think of anything wild, so I guess that's just how we're going to leave it. Oh wait, no. I also know it's not like a super westerny fantasy, just because I've seen some of the art kind of reminded me more of South Asian architecture and stuff, and also some of the costuming for some of the characters in a couple of the panels that I've seen. So extremely excited about that. Only South Asian inspired fantasy that I've come across so far is the Jasmine Throne, and I'm only halfway through that, so yeah, extremely excited about that.
That's pretty good.
I was wrong about the human half of Chappie being relevant at all, to be honest, but I mean, obviously, apart from beyond him being human.
I feel like we should start with the elephant in the room, which is the John Martin comparison.
Yeah, I didn't actually say what John Martin is, so that's not useful. For those who might not know, John Martin is the main ship in the Magnus archives, or the most popular one in the fandom. But it just so happens that the way they get drawn in fan art tends to be as a shorter South Asian man with long hair and a taller, heavier dude, often with reddish hair. So they do have some physical similarities.
Although Chappie is taller.
Oh, that's true. So the covers, that's usually what we start with. Let's start with that. To keep this grounded. They're all so pretty.
They're so pretty. Oh my god.
They're so gorgeous.
There's something about Harry Connor's drawing style that is just so aesthetically pleasing and pretty.
Every aspect of it is just so good. Their use of colour, the way they draw interiors, the way they draw expressions. Their forests feel more foresty than real forests do.
Mm.
It kind of reminds me, it's not because it's in a similar art style, but in the way that people get really excited about the way that Studio Ghibli films draw food. Everything just seems so tantalizing, better than real.
There's also something I noticed on my reread was how dynamic all of their panels are.
Yeah.
They have such a good eye for pacing and what exactly to show to move the story along.
There's some really creative uses of it later as well when people are dreaming or fantasizing or freaking out that really give that visceral quality.
The covers are all, they look really nice on a shelf. I'll say that much.
I have to say, I'm now deeply, deeply envious that you have them. Actually, HarperCollins, this isn't a request. I know that the author has talked about not wanting to do another print run independently because they were like, it wasn't good for their health. That's very reasonable. So, hey, can somebody else please pay them lots of money?
Yeah, it's won so many awards. Why is it not published?
Thank you.
Please.
Please. But just, the art is it's so gorgeous. There's just so many, like, creative things with it as well. Not just designs and architecture and things like that, but using the cooler colours of the forest for usually when Cheppy and Yannick together alone, and then the warmer colours for, like, traumatic memories. That's so good.
Oh, all the comparison bits, or when, like, Cheppy's having a flashback, like when they're kissing, that one panel when they kiss, and then the flashback panel drops in over the top of their faces, so you get half of them, and then you get the traumatizing moment in the middle. Oh my god.
That hurt my feelings. That was so good.
Yeah. The darkness of the later scenes in the second volume, which is like very different tonally to what we've had so far. Oh, the passage where Cheppy has the armband on and then it's all like on grayscale.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I completely forgot about the grayscale until you just mentioned it, which I don't know how I did because that was so fantastic. That was so cool. Especially it coming in so late when you really weren't expecting it. That was such a clever way of draining the magic out of everything.
Yeah.
Also, the way that Cheppy's anxieties become those staggered, spidery bits of text that are like black and like encroach on the panel.
Just so like dynamic and cool and inventive. The dream sequences with the gold threading, the songs with the like magical kind of vibe.
The way that the magic is drawn in general, especially the scene where Cheppy's bringing Yannick back to life.
Oh my god, yes. The whole bone monster, the way that the spirits talk in that scene, the way that everything's lettered.
Yes.
And vibey and horrifying.
There's so much love put into every single millimeter of this. Like, there's been no cutting corners at any point, and it's so well planned. You've got so many clever echoes back, like the very first line coming back about halfway through. And the character designs. I love the character designs. Everyone looks so good. There's no same face syndrome or falling into the thing of having everyone have the same body type or anything. Genuinely diverse, which is really fun.
Especially with how many different time period designs there had to be for Cheppy.
Yeah.
They're still so well construed across the timeline. When he's got the short hair, and then when he's having a breakdown, and when he's younger.
When is he not having it right now? Just
at all times.
Also, the very last design for him experimenting more with his presentation, that made me so happy.
Yes. There is not an ounce of this book that isn't just gender. When he starts wearing the eyeliner, I love him. And the way his style changes over the course of the books. When he starts wearing Jeanette's jumper.
That was so cute. And then when he's walking through the rain with it still. Oh my lord. Also, speaking of that, the conflict between them is so good. It's never annoying miscommunication. It's never extraneous. It never feels forced. It's always so legitimate and so tied to their character. And then them overcoming it is so important to their own character arcs, to their own development. This is pitch-perfect romance writing, as far as I'm concerned. When they are fighting, they're usually both right in different ways, which is really nice.
Reading Volume 3 is so stressful.
It's so stressful. I was going to read Volume 3 and then go to sleep and then read Volume 4 the following day, but I was like, oh, let me just quickly download it, because I needed to get Volume 4 off of the website. And then I was just like, oh, I'll just read the start. And then I was like, oh, I'll just keep going. And then I read the whole of Volume 4 because I needed to. I needed to see that they were okay.
The cliffhanger, it's not okay. That whole volume, they're both right, and they're both wrong, and they're both being so mentally ill. It's a very relatable situation, especially if you've ever been in customer service, for example. Like, overworked in any way, shape, or form. Or if you get overwhelmed easily. It's so visceral and so relatable, and it hurts. But in a good way. But it hurts. They both grow so much as people.
Yeah.
And I love that for them. Especially Cheppy. Like, you go in kind of seeing him through Jeanette's eyes and being like, oh my god, he's perfect. And you're like, you know that he's having like all his trauma breakdowns. But in book 4, actually getting to see him improve, he's still having his panic attacks. But like, the thing that struck me about book 4 was like Cheppy learning that he'd been being really rude and just not noticing that entire time.
Yeah.
People giving him patience and reteaching him how to do things, because he's never had to learn how to do them before.
Exactly.
The love language of them like learning how to do things that the other likes. Cooking.
The cooking is so cute.
The patience that Jeanette has with Cheppy. Or when he has to look up that he's having panic attacks and he's like, hang on, my love, please go to therapy. And he does. So proud of him for that.
It's so nice to see him develop. And also, I think when there's fantasy romances or historical romances, I think it's very common to have a class gap of some kind. And then I also think it's very common for writers to just sort of skim over it because they kind of don't want to deal with it. But I always love it when they do, because it's going to cause conflict sooner or later, like the ones that we see here. One of you just does not know how to look after yourself, and that can't fall on one person all the time, and that's going to be exhausting. It's very cool to see it resolved here, but not swept under the rug.
It's resolved so well. I've not ever seen it done like properly, I think.
Yeah, I think I've seen it hinted at, or like the seed sown for it more, I guess because you have a slow ending here with the implication of the time passing. But also the fact that it's also instrumental to Cheppy's independence and growth as a person, and it was one of the things that was keeping him reliant on people who were maybe using that to their advantage. Shall we talk about characters?
Let's talk about characters.
Who was your favourite?
You can't just ask me that, Soren.
I just did.
I mean, okay, I know we've talked so much more about Cheppy than Jeanette, but it has to be Cheppy. He's so relatable in how anxious he is, how overworking himself he is. He has everything that I want in a man.
Magical flowers.
Magical flowers. The way, like, after he becomes mortal, he just is so pathetic the whole time. He's just always ill. And I'm like, I love you. He is everything. But then I also really love Jeanette.
He's so good.
He's so good. He's so cool. I love him so much. If I had to pick a favourite, it would be Cheppy. But you can't do me like that, Soren.
I'm sorry.
Who's your favourite?
Also Cheppy. He's kind of an idiot, but also a genius, which is my favourite thing. His arc is just so finely crafted and interesting. And I mean, I just love some angst, to be honest. Although I'm saying Janek, because I thought it was like the Polish.
I could be very wrong. I mean, that would probably make sense considering that Kesh seems to be sort of Slavic coded.
It's a fantasy land, so I guess. There was no pronunciation guide, so,
That's true. Yeah, Harry Connor, hit us up.
Yes, please.
Pronunciation guide, please.
I can do like Priya and stuff because I'm half Indian.
Let's talk about Priya, actually. I love her so much.
I wanted to mention her as a potential favourite as well. I mean, I feel like she didn't have enough page time to be like a firm favourite, but I love her. And her letters are so...
Every single letter from her had me chomping at the bit to meet her, because she had...
Yes.
The exact level of sass to match Cheppy. The way that she talked was always like, it's for science. And it's very clear just because she wants to gossip. I love her.
Such a good payoff finally getting to meet her after hearing about her for so long.
But we never got to see her meeting Janek.
I know, which is so sad. Can we have an epilogue, please? Another one. I know that the whole ending is kind of...
Multiple. Many. All of them.
You know,
just keep going.
Just like an entire second comic. That would be great.
Yeah.
I know Connor's working on, I think, an Edwardian romance comic. I think it's Tune on Binary Leads, which I'm very excited about. But I love these idiots.
Shout out to all the side characters who are so well characterized.
Mei Lin, I really liked as well.
I love her so much.
I'm forgetting the name of the guy that originally shows Cheppy around.
Adrian.
I also liked Adrian.
Yeah. I like Stash and Sadie. I love Rem, the cousin.
Yes, Rem was so cool.
When we got the letter from them at the end,
I was so happy.
I cried.
Every character feels incredibly realised, which is really an achievement given that Rem doesn't get a lot of page time at all.
I sobbed so many times reading the fourth one. Like when the house is grown. Oh my gosh.
That was such a fitting and beautiful ending. I don't know how they thought of that, but they are a genius. It's such a good culmination of everything and fusing of the things that they both learned about like how to stay still and how to be adventurous. Also, the stuff you were mentioning before with Cheppy coming to terms with being mortal. I know the author's disabled. It felt a lot like coming to terms with having a disability, I think.
Yeah, I like that.
I liked it as well. Also, I was so excited to see Demi-Ref in this. I wasn't expecting it.
Yes!
Amazing.
Honestly, another reason for him to be relatable is the aceness of it all.
And Yannick being so respectful about it and being like, if the answer is never, then that's okay. That was very sweet.
Yes. But also they're so horny in this comic, which I do love.
I think there's some of the AUs rated 18. So
You know, we love that for them.
I do love Chappie just like taking off his clothes though and being like, this is normal, and Yano being like, stop.
All the romance tropes. Perfect. When they sleep next to each other in the tent.
And then the bit at the end when Chappie's like, I don't sleep very well, and Yano's like, you can just come sleep next to me. It doesn't have to be a thing. We didn't have to do anything else.
When Chappie doesn't know how to put up the tent properly and he just sleeps in the collapsed tent.
I know that was like a really sad moment, but it's like a little blanket, it's fine.
All the coughing he does throughout that.
Someone get this man an inhaler.
Please. The magical bag that only fits books in it.
I wish I had a magical bag that only... I mean, it can fit other things in it, but books is the important thing.
Exactly.
Just having like a portable library with you at all times.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have to like stick your arm in or if you have to wait for someone to like put things by the flap.
Just reach far enough.
Yeah, you just need to have long arms.
Have one of those grabbers in the inside. Grab at the books from the shelf.
Imagine if you were at your local library and then a portal opened up in the wall and a mechanical hand protruded from this opening. Imagining it like shoving over like stacks and stacks of books in the process. Terrible library experience. 1 star.
It's so pretty.
It's so pretty. And could I just, seeing South Asian architecture and clothes, it made me very happy. Even when Jeffy was having his dream about the pack and he briefly dreamed about marrying his abusive ex, I was like, this is terrible because it's abusive ex. But it was 2 groomsmen in Hindu wedding clothes, and I have never seen that anywhere in my life, and that nearly made me cry just because I was like, oh, this is a thing that can exist. Except not in that context, no.
No.
But it still made me really happy to see that. I was like, oh my god, okay. Speaking of, I have the note, I love everything about this comic. It is so thematically rich, I want to marry it.
Yeah, that's legit.
In previous episodes, we were talking about fantasy as a metaphor for real life struggles and how some people think it's bad. But I feel like this is such a masterclass in why it's good, because this works on so many different levels in ways that you could never get with like a straight story about something. We were talking about the mortal lifespan thing. You can take that as an acquiring disability metaphor. For me, I was also reminded of being on meds that actually work for my depression, because suddenly I like have concerns and feelings, but things also feel good in a different way, which they also had with him, tasting food and being like, oh wow, I'm experiencing on a different level. The dryad mixed race stuff, the fetishization of the fae, that was so good. Any mixed race couple always gets that, oh, your children will be so attractive, which is such a weird thing to say. Like, that child doesn't even exist, and you're already like, let me measure them on a scale of conventional attractiveness. So it was cool to see that. I mean, not cool, I guess, is the wrong word. Cathartic, let's say.
Yeah.
And I also love that Yanek was also mixed race, but it was like a very different experience for both of them. I could easily see an author being like, oh, it's going to be too confusing if they're like from more than one place, so I'm just going to do one character and then I won't have to give more exposition. But I thought it was like a nice connective thing between the two of them.
Cheppy's struggle with alcoholism really got me. Because, like, you know, I have self-medicated before. I know how it feels. So it's nice to see that's explored in fiction, but not in a sort of like cold turkey way. This is an issue that he deals with that is never treated as that serious by any of the other characters and sort of just goes away on its own. I would have liked to see a little bit more of exploring that he always just overdrinks as a reactionary thing. I did like an exploration of how that came to be, because he just had to numb himself from everything that happened in the past. But it was nice to see that explored, because he doesn't do it all the time every day, which is what you often get as like a typical, this is what an alcoholic looks like, as opposed to just like every time you drink too much. And whenever things go wrong, you're like, this is what I need to do. So it was nice to see that explored in a more nuanced way.
Yeah, I feel like it does make sense to a degree that it got better at the end just because his circumstances had changed so much. Like the famous thing of the Vietnam vets who were all on heroin and then got home and just immediately got off heroin, which is obviously not supposed to be an easy thing to do, but it was because they weren't in a bloody war zone anymore. They were at home with support. And that's not the way that addicts are usually treated. They're usually cut off from their friends and family and from normal life. So I think to some degree you can see the support is so tangible there. There are people around him that love him. But I also agree, I think it would have been nice to see a little bit more. Can I talk about a particular moment that just had me going insane? The party scene in the flashback where Jeffy is with his ex, whose name I keep forgetting, so we're just going to call it his ex. He doesn't deserve a name. And sees the fey creature in the lighter and talks about how it's designed to let him die. And his ex is like, I don't care. Things happen at that party. They get progressively worse, and then at the end of the party he just lets him light his cigarette with that lighter. Oh my god.
Yeah, the apathy.
That was such a good way of representing it, and I think that was really using the medium to its fullest, because I think if you put that in prose it would be very hard to draw attention to it without overly signposting it. But the composition of the panel not drawing attention to it, leaving it as a visual symbol that is almost overlooked by the reader because it's being overlooked by Cheppy, is amazing.
Can we talk about the representation of abuse in queer relationships?
Yes.
I feel like in recent years, we've started to finally be able to talk about queer relationships without just putting them on a pedestal and being like, we have to be unproblematic because otherwise the straights will hate us. I recently read In the Dream House by Carmen Machado, which is about the author's experience of abuse in a lesbian relationship. It was one of the best things I read last year. And being able to look at that nuance and see just because you're queer doesn't make you a good person and doesn't mean that you are automatically not homophobic, racist, transphobic, etc., etc. Really good and like, well, not good, but like interesting to see that explored and looked at in the way that Ishan is controlling of what Cheppy wears and makes him look more masculine and is also very racist. And there's like those little moments of him like showing kindness, which balance out all the awfulness, which is like how abusive relationships are. It's very insidious to watch, but very well written.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to read, but I think it's so important to see those relationships, especially for young queer people, I think, because I think there is that thing of like, if you get into a queer relationship, it's just going to be the best. You've overcome that barrier of being in a queer relationship at all in the first place. But then queer people are vulnerable in a way that cis-het people might not be, because they might not have a good relationship with their family, they might not have a good relationship with themselves, their self-worth. I think it's quite good to see it in this context where like, no one's really marginalized for being queer in this. Maylin is implied to have a bad relationship with her family, and Cheppy's gender expression is obviously not encouraged by the people around him, but there's very little overt homophobia on the page. And I think both of us read a lot of stories set in fantasy worlds where queerness is fine and is not marginalised. It's escapism, and it's a relief. But taking an abusive queer relationship into that context, I think does something valuable in that it shows that even outside of those excuses that you might give to a queer person in the world that we live in now, that they haven't had good models for relationships, that maybe they've faced personal marginalization, it's still not an excuse. And people would behave unacceptably, even in a perfect world, in inverted commas. And relationship abuse can happen regardless of the context.
Do you have any favourite scenes?
I mean, the lighter scene, but that's because I love misery.
The you underestimate me scene.
That was so good.
I remember when I first read that scene, literally going and texting you and like sending you a picture of the panel and being like, Soren, I'm having a breakdown. And you being like, okay, Morgan.
I don't know the context of this. Now I do, and you were correct. You were right to be having a breakdown.
The pacing, the speech bubbles spaced out of like, you underestimate me, the glowing eyes.
The lettering being different through that scene.
Exactly. I'm a sucker for the pacifist character finally breaks, especially when it's to protect a loved one.
Yeah. Lighter scene, the snow scene, and then Yannick's like, you have boots? Because before that, Cheppy was just walking around barefoot. That was so cute.
I'm so glad he got shoes. The way little petals sprout between one panel and the next in different scenes.
We haven't talked actually about, I mean, we joked about it in the intro, but the fact that Cheppy is feeling flour in his hair is so good. And then also that as an extended metaphor for his ex making him cut his hair, which are his feelings. That is so neat.
And when he goes like all Vine explosion-y when he's having a breakdown.
Yes, that's so good.
And then all the dead bits in his hair for like everything after the pact. Please, sir.
Drink some water.
And Priya's just poking at him like, go to a barber. If this isn't a sign that you need to see a therapist, I don't know what is.
I feel like we need to talk more about Yannick. I love his arc as well.
Yes.
His chef dreams come to pass.
His chef dreams. I really don't like his mother.
No, I know that like they kind of work it out at the end and stuff, but you know, if you kind of knew that he shouldn't be doing all of it, why did you put it on him in the first place? I like his stepdad. That was a really cute little conversation that they have. Also interesting that neither Cheppy or Yannick's dads appear at any point. I appreciate that thread is kind of left hanging for Cheppy. It struck a really good balance between resolving things and not being like, let's tie up every single loose end here.
Yeah.
Like Yannick's sister doesn't appear or anything.
I love Yannick. I love his whole support group with his queer little friends and his like burnout story in the third book.
Yeah.
Very relatable. Maybe going through something like that around now. But
Morgan, please go to sleep.
I really liked seeing that, and it felt very visceral in the way that he was just falling apart. And once you start falling apart in that way, you don't really have time to begin putting yourself back together. The only thing you can do is stop or continue to fall apart.
The bit where he has a little mini breakdown on the steps and then just keeps going because he doesn't have time.
Is it customer service if you don't go and just cry on the steps for a few minutes before going back and putting a smile back on?
I do not miss that aspect of customer service.
I love how the narration we get from Your Next Point of View in the first couple books, when he's sort of talking to Cheppy in his mind and being like, you're a terrible liar and I wish you'd talk to me more. And
Yeah.
I love second person address from a first person perspective almost as much as I love second person address. They're both sort of like a little bit sassy and they rub off on each other a little bit. The bit when they're like, wow, yeah, Nick, your sense of humour has really changed. I don't really get it anymore.
Yes, he makes that joke and everyone's like, what?
You know who would get it?
That's such good tangible missing each other for me. If you've listened to all of this podcast, you'll know that there's another book that I complained about a couple in because I couldn't see what it was about each other that they missed. With this, I'm like, I can see exactly what you missed about each other. The absence from each other's lives is so palpable.
They complete each other.
They do.
They're different enough, but similar enough. So, Soren, what are your final thoughts?
It's obvious that I'm going to rate this 5 stars because I put this on my top 5 for the year. Yeah, this was so good. This did, in fact, rearrange my brain. I love literally every aspect of it, and I basically can't fault it. I mean, we're out here being like, oh, maybe a bit more alcoholism for Chappie. But when nitpicking, it's so good on so many levels, and so thematically layered. And sometimes when you read things and they're trying to be thematically layered, you're like, I can tell that you're trying. This is just so genuine, and it just encompasses so much because it's so wholehearted and lovely. Morgan, what were your final thoughts?
Stunning, show-stopping, 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10. It was on my top 10 for the year. I read the entire thing twice last year, so the only things that could make this better is if it was eventually traditionally published, because more people deserve to read this.
Yes, I would buy this for basically everybody I know.
Exactly.
That would be fantastic.
The only thing that could possibly make it better is if they had a pet.
I was thinking that. I was like, they should get a cat at the end.
That's the only suggestion I have. But absolutely no faults. I want more. I would live in this world forever. I would read so many spin-offs.
Yes, I'm going to go devour all the AU comics on Harry Connor's website, which, if you happen to be listening to this and you don't know about the AU comics, there are alternate universe comics that Harry Connor has drawn. So there is a little bit more if you want more. But Morgan, if this rearranged anyone's brain, what would you recommend?
You know what? I'm going to recommend A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. 2 people going on a journey, learning more things about themselves and about the person with them. It's queer. It's vibey. It's cozy, but also it makes you have existential crises. Soren, do you have any recommendations?
Peeler of the Woods by Mai K. Nguyen, which is a middle grade book, but it had such a similar vibe that I couldn't possibly not mention it. It's about a little girl called Willow who has a fight with her sister and runs off into the woods near her house, and she meets a lost dryad there who can't find her way home. It's very cute. There is a dog in it as well. Very cozy, but a little bit suffused with sadness, but it's like a very short read. And it's also a little bit queer. They're very young, so it's not like a full-blown romance, but you can tell that there's like a little bit of a crush going on, which is very cute. Next time, we're reading Thieves by Lucy Bryan, which is a young adult graphic novel translated from French.
Until then, you're always welcome through the bookcase.
Don't forget to scratch the cat on your way out. Thank you for listening to The Hidden Bookcase, a production of Plain Our Prod. On this episode you heard Morgan Greensmith and Soren Breyer discussing Finding Home by Harry Connor. You can find out more about Finding Home at harry-illustration.com. You can follow Connor at Harry Draws on Twitter. You can find The Hidden Bookcase on Twitter at Hidden Bookcase, and on Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr and TikTok at Hidden Bookcase Podcast. Find out more about Plain Our Prod at plainarprod.com. Know what we should read next, or want to chat to us about what you thought of this episode's read? You can reach us at thehiddenbookcase@gmail.com or send us a DM on social media. We'd love to hear from you. If you're enjoying The Hidden Bookcase, please consider leaving us a rating or review, or you can always tell a friend how to find us. Your whispers are the best way for bookworms to discover our show. On our next episode, which will be out on Monday the 20th of February, we'll be discussing Thieves by Lucy Bryan. We hope to see you then, and in the meantime, you're always welcome through the bookcase.